Good afternoon for R5. I would like to continue where we left off just now, and I think it would be best if we start at mutation and selection. So let's just recap a few things, okay? I have already told you that mutation is the basis for all selection to happen. So, and on top of that, mutation, you just can't stop mutation. It will happen, all right? There's no way to stop it. And some mutations are good, some mutations are bad. So over here in this book, it says here, okay, some mutations, okay, will disrupt the normal function of cell. They may be harmful or lethal to an organism. However, some mutations are beneficial. So I think that is what we all want to focus on, okay? Most mutations are beneficial, all right, and therefore it may allow the individual to, for example, to avoid predator because it has better camouflage. There are so many other examples we can choose from. I think this is sufficient for now. Now, usually such individuals will leave more offspring than individuals without the beneficial mutation. And as a result, the frequency of the mutant allele will increase in the population of organism. And as such changes takes place, organism with new traits may arise after many years, giving rise to a new species. Nature selects those organisms with more favorable traits to survive and reproduce. Now, the evolution, the change of present-day life form from their ancestors are believed to have occurred through mutation and natural selection. So, boys and girls, the next thing you need to know is I am now trying to give you an overview how evolution, mutation, and selection are connected. Okay, so give me a minute. So, the focus of the next few minutes would be for you to understand that evolution happens through the process of mutation. Mutation is the underlying cause of evolution to happen. And at the same time, there is this thing called the selection process. Selection process comes in two forms: natural selection and artificial selection. Natural selection simply means nature selects the organism based on several characteristics which we will discover later. Artificial selection are those selections that happen because men intervene in the selection process. Okay. Now, there are many kind of models that involves in selection. But natural selection, we will just focus on adaptive radiation only, okay, as one of the methods for natural selection to occur. For man-made selection or selection by man, artificial selection, we will be looking at three different types of artificial selection, the three different ways in which man selects those organisms that they want to breed. So one simple way is selective breeding, another one is hybridization, and last one is inbreeding. And I will take you through some examples, okay, to make sure that you understand what are the four differences among them. So let us start from where we stopped. This is the slide that you were on. Just a quick recap, okay. Mutation provides new genes or alleles, which is actually which stands up for variation, all right, for natural selection to operate on. Okay, so mutation must happen in order to produce individuals with varied characteristics. In order for natural selection to occur, of course, we will begin with a certain number of organisms in one population. All right, under normal circumstances, when there is enough food, good condition, enough space for them to grow, the organisms will reproduce, okay, until such time there will be competition for food, there will be competition for space among the organisms. Because there is competition, naturally, not all will be able to get the food they need. Those who are weaker in the population will not be able to feed for themselves, fend for themselves, or get the space for them to rest in. So in this case, in this situation, nature will select those varieties or those organisms that are more competitive, who are more resistant to diseases, right? They fare better and they recover better from diseases, or they are those who are adapted to the changes in the environment better. These are the population that will survive, all right? And they will reproduce their kind, which means to say their mutation being favorable Okay, allow them, okay, to be selected naturally, okay, to move on and reproduce even more in numbers. I would like to use the example of people who are heterozygous for sickle cell anemia as an example to how nature selects them to survive malaria. Now, malaria is a disease. The malaria pathogens, they will enter the red blood cells. Okay, they will enter the red blood cells. They will use up the oxygen and whatever nutrients found in the red blood cell to grow and reproduce their kind. They will naturally choose individuals who are homozygous, which means people who only have this kind of red blood cell, the biconcave red blood cell. Alright, they do not choose people who have these kind of red blood cell, in which, okay, the red blood cells are normal, whereas the other one is sickle cell anemia. The organism, the malaria pathogen, do not choose individuals who have sickle cell anemia like this, which means these people with sickle cell, they are able to survive longer, which means nature selects them, okay, to pass on these genes to the next generation. I want you to read this line, okay, to understand better. It is stated here that the heterozygous for sickle cell allele, they suffer less. That means they are, okay, disease resistant. Okay, what disease are they resistant against? They are resistant against the malaria. Alright, which means nature already select them over their counterpart, those people with the normal red blood cell. You can see here, okay, they are more resistant than individuals who have 2 copies of the normal hemoglobin allele. Individuals who are homozygous, they have a shorter lifespan given the environment is such, okay, malaria prone. So in other words, in countries where malaria is prevalent, nature selects those people who are heterozygous for the sickle cell allele. They are the ones that nature selects to live and pass on their genes to their offspring. So in countries like Malaysia, Singapore, where malaria is no longer a threat, if malaria come to us and all of us, our population, have only the normal red blood cell, we have a higher chance of dying because malaria loves us and will make us die faster. In other words, we will not survive this. So nature does not select us given our circumstances. Perhaps it would be better if I choose another example to explain how natural selection takes place. I think you should turn to page 380 of your textbook and you will see the same picture as you see here. So, at first, when food is abundant and conditions are suitable, the rabbits will reproduce rapidly. But soon after, there will be competition for food, there will be competition for space, which makes the rabbits migrate to 2 different environments, for example, the dense forest and the open plain. So, the rabbits which are found in the dense forest as well as the open plain, alright, some things will happen to them that we cannot stop, which is actually spontaneous mutation that takes place in their cells. Okay? Mutation that happens in their ovaries and the testes, alright, will be carried on and passed on to their offspring. Some of these mutations may include change in coat color, change in size, change in habits. Alright? Now, again, competition among the different varieties in those environments will result in the survival of the fetus. Nature selects the variation with the favorable genes and features best suited to the environment to survive, alright, while the other variations may die or decrease in numbers due to predation. Now, in these pictures here, let's just focus on the dense forest. Okay. At first, all of the rabbits looked the same, all right, as they were from where they came from. But because of mutation, they have a change in color. Some of them become black, and therefore they have a better advantage against the dark background, all right. You even have random mutation that involves rabbits which can actually stood up, all right, so that they can look for prey over a far distance. Similar mutation may also happen to those rabbits, all right, in the open plain, all right. Again, mutation may involve their feeding habits, whether they are able to stand up. There would be some changes in colors and so forth. Again, competition will take place. All right, as you can see, chances are these are the rabbits, all right. These are the rabbits here that will survive better. Chances are because they blend in the environment better. Let us now just go in detail, all right, and talk more about these rabbits here that has undergone mutation, all right, in the dense forest. You realize that the variety A has a dark color and it receives a good camouflage, all right. This, together with its small size and crouching position, makes it less easily detectable by the predators. Its small size also allows it to hide in crevices or among logs, and because of that, they will survive and reproduce and pass on their favorable genes to their offspring. They become the prominent species in their environment. Now, the argument for this side, this one here, this group here, you see, variety B, they develop a light-colored fur. This light-colored coat is an ideal camouflage for the open plains. Its larger size, longer hind legs will enable it to run faster to escape from predation. The long ears also might give it a keener sense of hearing to detect predators. Its upright position, able to see farther, both for source of food as well as approach of predators. And because these are the characteristics that would enable it to survive, it will then be able to pass on their favorable genes. Again, the same arguments here. All right. So, two different species over time may have evolved as a result of mutation, competition, and natural selection. So, each species is now suited to survive on its own environment, but not the others. So such a process may take a very long time, for example, thousands or millions of years, but it does occur. And the scientist Charles Darwin, all right, he is the one who proposed that this was what happened to all the other organisms in the whole world, in the whole world, all right. Charles Darwin was studying the finches, all right, on his journey to some of the islands, and he was the one who proposed that natural selection, competition are the basis for the different organisms, the different species that we see today. All right, maybe I will just elaborate a little bit about his work. And through his work, he was also the one who suggested and called what he observed as adaptive radiation. Firstly, just to put things in perspective, all right, this is called the mainland, all right, and these are where the Galapagos Islands are, where Darwin actually traveled, all right, and studied the finches. Of course, he studied other organisms as well. The islands look like these, all right, okay. According to him, there are mainland, here are where the mainland finches begin, and they were able to fly to this island, all right, in search for food and space. Very soon, okay, all the finches that are on this island over here, they look different from those of the mainland. So this is what he said. Okay, the ancestral finches from the mainland managed to get to the islands, obviously by flying, not swimming. Once separated, the island finches began to evolve along different lines from the mainland finches, and this is because, all right, they firstly reproduce rapidly, and then because there are so many of them, competition arose. Because there was competition, and the finches actually explored other areas to live in, all right, and that's when the variation begin with the help of mutation. Those finches with beaks suited to a particular diet on the island, they survive and they reproduce. Eventually, 6 major types of finches evolved, each of them adapted to a particular food source, such as seeds, fruits, and insects. By sheer number, they have to actually explore other areas, okay, in the island, such that you can see they have got no choice but to try and feed on other sources of food. So this large ground finch actually, successfully feed on large seeds. Over here, the warbler finch is actually, it has a slender beak for feeding on small insects, which it catches in mid-air. All right, so these are just some examples. This is the vegetarian tree finch, which has curved parrot-like beak to feed on buds and fruits so that it can easily peel, and get rid of the seeds and so forth. So boys and girls, what we have talked about was totally about natural selection. We will now take a look at artificial selection. Okay, how for thousands of years humans have been trying to produce improved breeds of plant, improved breeds of animals by selective breeding. Now, keyword here is selective breeding. So this is the portion, okay, the first part, the first example of how artificial selection happens. Selection really is a method used to produce plants and animals with the desirable traits that the farmer wants, okay, that the animal breeder wants. Okay, now how does the selective breeding of plants happen? This is just one example, okay, that we can share with you inside your textbook. Apparently, breeding soybean plants is not as easy as it seems. All right, there are the good quality ones, there are the not so good quality ones. But generally, people will pay to drink soybean which has got high nutritional contents. At the same time, soybeans are also used in oil production. So there will be breeders who want soybean plants that can bear seeds which have high oil content. They can make more oil, they can sell the oil for bigger profits. So what do they naturally do? The breeders will first analyze seeds from different plants and select plants that produce seeds with high oil content. So by doing so, they are actually selecting plants with good gene combinations for oil production. Now, part of selective breeding means they allow the good seeds, which has got oil production, good genes for oil production, to grow into new plants and self-fertilize so that they keep the good genes within that population. The resulting seeds with the highest oil content are selected and once again used as parents for the next generation. So after many generations, pure breeding plants that produce seeds with the desired qualities are obtained. The plants can then be self-pollinated, okay, to ensure the desirable gene stays within that population. Now, these can also happen to any other plants you wish to breed. For example, if you want groundnut with high protein, you will probably do the same thing. You will analyze seeds. You will check using your Buret's test to see how much protein there is. And then after that, you will do the same process over and over again. Boys and girls, besides selective breeding, at times breeders will cross different varieties of plants to produce a new and better variety. Now, this is called hybridization. For example, there is a variety of cultivated sugarcane in Java that is rich in sugar, however susceptible to disease. The wild type, on the other hand, is the opposite. Okay, it has got low sugar content, but it is very hardy. It is disease resistant. So when the breeders cross the two varieties together, all right, what it is hoped is that the F1 generation will be both resistant to the disease and at the same time rich in sugar content. The new variety will hence have the desirable combination of genes from both of the parents. However, hybrids do not breed true. That is, they do not produce offsprings identical to the parents. Now, this sentence I need to explain to you a little bit more so that you understand what I mean by hybrids do not breed true. Now, what do I mean by they do not breed true? Okay, here I'm going to draw you the genetic cross. Please be reminded, the genetic cross is totally not important to you, but this will help you to understand what do I mean by it doesn't breed true. So we get the genetic cross ready. So as the parent genotype, the Java type will actually have high sugar, okay, but it is easily diseased. The wild type, on the other hand, is the opposite. It does not produce as much sugar, but it is disease resistant. So this is the way we denote them. Now, class, when you see the genotype, now so far what you have learned is what we call monohybrid inheritance, where we take a look at how one pair of characteristics become gametes and get passed down to the generation. This here is an example of a dihybrid inheritance, meaning to say, di means two, meaning to say there are two characteristics that will be passed down together at one go. So this is entirely not in your syllabus. So you see over here, the Java variety, okay, I put a capital S to denote that it produces a lot of sugar, and a small d to say that it is not disease resistant. And the opposite is true for the wild type. Okay, now I choose to have two of them simply because there are two chromosomes that will then become gamete. In order to save space, I will just do this to show you that this is the gametes. Alright, this is the gametes, okay, from their parent. So now I'm going to show you how the F1 genotype will come about to give, okay, the next generation high in sugar and at the same time disease resistant. So, boys and girls, at this stage, you will realize that all of the F1 genotype will have exactly the same genotype as shown over here. Whatever combination, if you take these and these, you will end up with this combination. Alright? And if you take this same one together with this one, you will also have the same genetic combination. Alright? That is why for the F1 generation, they will all be what? They will all have high sugar. They will all have high sugar, okay, and at the same time, disease resistance. Disease resistant. My apologies. I went a bit too fast after telling you that the F1 genotype is as such. If we self the F1 genotype, you will have the following gametes, okay, here. Focus here. You will have the following gametes, alright? And when there is random fertilization, you are going to get number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4 possible genotypes. Now, if you focus on number 1, okay, you will realize that they have exactly the same combination as the parent, which is up here, which means it is high in sugar but disease resistant. Likewise, if you take a look at number 4, they will have the same combination like the parents up here, meaning to say it has low sugar but they are disease resistant. It is only this, number 2 and number 3, which shows the genotype that has both high sugar and at the same time disease resistant. Okay, so which means only 50% of the F2 generation will give you the desired traits, okay, for the sugarcane. And this is the meaning of it does not breed through, because out of all the possible genotype, only 50% of the population will give you the kind that you want. The other 25% here and another 25% here will behave exactly like the parents, in which they are lacking in one of the characteristics that you want. So in summary, this is the process, an example of artificial selection, which is called hybridization. Okay, so you can read this again. Alright, the cultivated sugarcane in Java is rich in sugar but susceptible to disease, not disease resistant. The wild type, on the other hand, does not give so much sugar, but it is disease resistant. So, right, when you hybridize them, the new variety has the desirable combination of both genes. However, the hybrids do not breed through, because in the F2 generation, you only get 50% of the characteristics that you want. The other 25 plus 25, you will get back, okay, the qualities of the parents that you started out with. So boys and girls, let us now proceed on to learn about artificial selection in animals. Just like plants, okay, they are very related in terms of its process. Firstly, okay, over here, when we talk about artificial selection in animals, it involves a selection process. Okay, now at times hybridization may happen, all right, and lastly, another process which we call inbreeding. At this juncture, I want you to know that inbreeding is somewhat similar to self-fertilization, but it is not exactly the same. Okay. Now, so look out for this explanation. Hear out this explanation as I go along when I read this passage with you. Let us begin with looking at cows. All right, as an example of how artificial selection happens in animals. Now, cows, all right, produce plenty of milk, okay, and good meat. They are selected and used as the female parents for the next generation. If you ask me, why not male parents? Okay, simply because female parents are able to produce milk. Male parents do not have others that can produce milk. They don't have others to start with, therefore, they cannot produce milk. Now, the other thing which you need to know about cows is they are unlike plants, all right? So animals cannot be self-fertilized. What do I mean by unlike plants, they cannot be self-fertilized? Plants, boys and girls, may have flowers that has got both the ovary as well as the anther together within the same flower, which means self-fertilization is possible. But for animals, okay, like cows for example, they will not have the male and female reproductive parts within the same cow. So they cannot self-fertilize themselves, and therefore mating is required. Okay, mating with cows with desirable traits. Okay, mating with bull, mating a cow with a bull with desirable traits is the only way. So in short, if you would like to have cows, okay, which has got plenty of milk and good meat, okay, you will have to undergo this selection process, and to mate it with a bull which has got good traits. Chances are, obviously you cannot control whether you get a female cow or you get a bull as the offspring, but chances are, if it is a cow, then that cow will be like its mother, all right, being able to produce plenty of milk and good meat if possible. If the offspring is a bull, then it will probably carry the genes that are able to make plenty of milk. All right, so this gene will then be passed on to the F2 generation. Now let's move on to hybridization. All right, this concept of hybridization in animals is very similar to that of plants. All right, in plants you have learned about hybridization between the Java sugarcane and the wild type. Okay, over here, if we take a look at cows, all right, we will just focus on the Jersey cow. All right, this is the female one, which is known to produce plenty of good milk, but it does not thrive in warm climates. On the other hand, the Brahman bull, all right, is able to thrive in warm climate, but their cows, the female counterparts, are not good milk producers. So what you can do is you will take the Jersey cow to mate with the Brahman bull. But sometimes the bull is not even necessary, okay? We can just take the sperm from the Brahman bull and insert it into the vagina or the female reproductive organ of the Jersey cow here in Indonesia or in Malaysia. That will just be fine. Okay, so that the genes with good qualities of the two parents will be passed on down to the offspring or to the hybrid. So this is how the Jersey cow looks like, the Jersey breed, and this is the cow part looks like. Here is the Brahman bull. All right, usually this is found in India, if I'm not wrong. This is how they look like, okay? Okay, what you're going to see here is actually the process of trying to collect sperm from a horse. This is in the same way. How you collect sperm from pigs, dogs, cows, elephants, and so forth. It involves the same process. So this bar over here, okay, it is made like as if the horse is actually mounting to the female. okay, to the mare. This is the penis, all right, and what the lady in red, is trying to do is to clean the penis, all right, so to clean so that the sperm that's going to be collected later will be free from germs. Okay, she's going to do it another time. Okay, she's going to clean it another time. All right, so just observe. So what the lady in red tried to do is to insert the penis inside this container, all right, so that all the sperm will be collected here. Okay, and that is how they collected the sperm. Now what I have here is actually the reproductive organ of a cow. Okay, over here will be the external genitalia. All right, basically this is the vulva, the clitoris, the opening to the vagina. Now on top here is another opening to the anus. Okay, so these two are separate openings, much like the female in humans. Okay, so later what will happen is the sperm that you collect from a bull will be inserted into the vagina. Over here, I have another process of trying to collect sperm from boar, okay, from swine. So I think this gives you a clearer view. Okay, you can take a look at the penis of the swine. It really looks like a screw. Very soon, what he is going to do is to pull the penis out, all right, and the word to use is actually to masturbate a pig, to give it a squeezing motion so that the sperm will be collected. The first few drops of sperm will not be collected because it will be contaminated with urine, all right, and this is not the part of the sperm that we want. Now it is ready, and therefore it is placed inside this container over here. Okay, you can see the drops of sperm down there. This is the penis of swine, screw-like in shape. What you see here is actually a sperm, okay, collected from dog. All right, so the owner is going to do this next. He's going to use a syringe to collect all the sperm inside before he inserts it into a female dog. Right, so we'll just fast forward a little bit. Okay, once it's collected, now this thing is actually a plastic tube which is inserted inside the vagina of this dog, and after which he will use the syringe to deliver the sperm. For some bigger animals like cows and all that, usually you will use the same process, just a plastic tube, okay, or if not, you can actually just deliver it by putting your hand inside it. But I think the vagina for dogs is actually a bit small, so you will not be able to do that. And once that is done, you will just remove completely. So coming back to this page, this is what the video tried to show to you is this region over here. Okay, sometimes it's just impossible to get the Brahman bull, which is from India, fly it over to regions in Asia, in Malaysia and Indonesia. It's a bit difficult. So this is what we do. We transfer the sperm, all right? We collect the sperm, transfer the sperm, and then after that insert by artificial insemination into the respective females. So boys and girls, here is just by simple selection, over here by hybridization. What you should take note of is how do you maintain the genes that you want. It is actually by inbreeding, which actually simply means breeding among closely related individuals within that species. Alright, so in plants we can do self-fertilization, but for animal we do it by inbreeding, which is mating amongst close related individuals. But there is a problem, there is a danger of inbreeding. This is over here, it is important. Now while you try to keep the good genes, you must also remember that you are in the process you also accumulate recessive alleles, yeah, and sometimes recessive alleles will meet together, and therefore when they will express themselves, when actually in heterozygous obviously they do not express themselves. So the example given here is inbreeding among horses may cause lethal intestinal defect in foals. In some dogs, inbreeding will give rise to rheumatism, so some dogs do not walk well. If you have some thoughts about inbreeding, okay, maybe I'll just clarify. All of my students previously, they asked me the same question over and over again. Is inbreeding similar to incest? The answer is yes, okay, except that incest is not allowed in humans, but well, we're not so strict with animals. So, if we have incest, will we suffer the same issue of accumulation of recessive allele? The answer is yes. So, boys and girls, we have actually completed, okay, trying to understand how the process of evolution happens through mutation and selection, either by natural selection or artificial selection.